Welcome back, weeders. I'm Beth Myers-Shanai with the Oregon Department of Agriculture's Noxious Weed Control Program. And I'm back in the greenhouse today to show off a newly harvested specimen of false brome, one of the few grasses that we have listed on our state noxious weed list. And quite a problem in open areas and in forest understories in western Oregon. This particular grass is called false brome because it resembles a true brome, and especially we've got one native brome, I think it's Columbia brome, that some people confuse the two. But there are some very distinct features that you can tell the difference, especially if you've got both plants in the field with you. This one has very hairy stems and leaves, and I'm gonna hold this up. See, I haven't even put it in a pot yet because it's so freshly harvested. And see if we can catch some of the hairiness of this plant. Maybe I'll even turn it around because I think I've got a better side on this side. So you can see some of the hairiness. And also, if you'll note that the base of the stems are more whitish, light green, whitish. The native brome the true brome has more of a reddish stem developing at the base. They're not always red, but very often they are. And they're smooth. There are no hairs. So I'm gonna pick a blade out, a stem out here, and see if we can even hold that up to catch any of the hairiness. Make sure it actually focuses on it too. It's hard to tell from this angle. But if you find the hairs here on the stem and then going up into the leaf, you'll know that this is not Columbia brome, that you most likely have false brome. Also, the form of this plant is very fountainy. It kind of droops to all sides. And in this specimen, I even got an example of some of the last year's growth that's now died back. These were the flowering spikes that had the flowerets on them. And if you kind of see this bleached out skeletonized looking plants from last year mixed in with the bright lime green plants, that's also another good indication that you found false brome. We don't actually have seed heads here anymore, but we do have a few of the little sheaths that the seeds were on. And again, I'm going to see if I can hold this up and get it anywhere in focus. And you can see that these little sheaths are attached directly to the stem. And if you had the native brome, the true Columbia brome, those little sheaths would be on their own little small stem that comes off the main stem, whereas these are just attached directly to the stem. And when the seeds are ripe and heavy, they actually hang, and you can easily tell that they're hanging there right off the stem. So I harvested this plant in the Corvallis area, which is kind of ground zero for this plant. Back before it was known it was going to be a huge problem, it was used in an attempt to help with getting a ground cover going on reforested areas, but unfortunately it took off on its own. A lot of areas in the Corvallis area are recreational. People hike through there, and so they've gone from there into the Cascades and other places in the Coast Range, and it's really spread around quite a bit, but definitely the heaviest around Benton County, the Corvallis area. And some of the Central Cascades where there are some research forests, so a lot of people who are moving for educational purposes between the Corvallis area and into the Cascades, some of those areas especially were heavy hit. And I think this was also seeded in some Forest Service managed national forest areas early on as well, when it thought it could be a good restoration grass. So we have this plant listed on our state noxious weed list as a B, but it is pretty heavily managed where restoration is underway, and also in any early detection areas where it really hasn't gotten a hold yet. For example, there are a couple of small patches that have started up on Mount Hood in the Lolo Pass area where we do some work on hawkweeds, which I introduced you to earlier. There are two small sites that were probably moved in on some equipment that were working in heavily infested areas, but we were able to find them, and we'll be able to get on them and stop them soon. So that's kind of the key to this plant. Whenever you find just a few scattered plants of it and not a whole sea of it, that's the time to get it, and get it fast. Grasses are a little bit harder to manage with and selectively to try to get them out without getting other things out. So that's why if you can get it early, you only have to spot spray or spot dig a few plants out, and you don't have to disturb as much of the surrounding plants in the landscape. As to the color of this one, it is a kind of a lime green. I don't know how well that's showing up for you on the camera today, but a very bright lime green in the field if it's in a sunny condition. If it's in shadier, it's still a lime green, kind of just a deeper lime. And it tends to shine. Those hairs reflect light, and so you might see it kind of shining off of an area. You'll see a little shinier looking grass in an area. So I hope you'll really keep an eye out for this one, and especially really keep your recreational equipment clean, because this is one that you really could easily move from one place to another, and it can really devastate our forest landscapes because it gets in underneath trees where a lot of other plants don't grow. The heavy understory has very few selective plants that are really shade tolerant, and this can quickly crowd them out. It's not preferred by grazing animals, and so if this starts to grow, they'll selectively choose the other more desirable plants out for forage and leave this one behind, which gives it an advantage and helps it take off even more. So let's stop this one before it gets started. Keep an eye out for it, and then keep an eye out for more videos because I've got lots more to come. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.